Today, on Independence Day, Ukraine and the United Kingdom achieved a real breakthrough in the joint production of advanced missiles. British Prime Minister Burnham, who arrived in Kyiv today, mysteriously stated that London would help the Ukrainian armed forces destroy Russian missiles even before they are launched at Ukrainian cities. This implies, as you can imagine, that the Ukrainian armed forces will acquire a new type of weapon, which should be able to reach deep into Russia and attack missiles and launchers on Russian territory on a large scale. And then later the details came out. The United Kingdom has officially allowed the European defense company MBDA to transfer secret data about British components for long-range SCALP missiles to Kyiv. This is the French equivalent of the British ones, Storm Shadow missiles. The decision will allow Ukraine and France to launch local production of munitions on Ukrainian territory. In other words, Ukraine will produce this type of missile itself for its own use. But that's not all, and here Britain pleasantly surprised us despite all the outcries and threats from the Russians. And it was also announced that air defense would be strengthened, but I won't reveal all the details right away. Let's discuss all of this together now. My name is Alexey Pechi, and before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and leave any comment you like. So, as you surely remember, just a few days ago, the head of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, after public statements that Ukraine is indeed using, among other things, British drones for long-range strikes against Russia, started threatening Britain with some kind of response. The British authorities openly stated that yes, it's true, Ukraine has been using purely British drones to strike the savage Russians for half a year now. And Prime Minister of Britain, Burnham, stated that London will continue to help Ukraine in any way it can. And that's when Sergei Lavrov made his statement, quote, "I feel sorry for the United Kingdom if it stands with Ukraine until the very end. This means only one thing. The President warned about our right to act in any area of the world's oceans. If anyone tries to encroach on our interests and our property, we also have the right to consider the proudly announced direct involvement of the British missile forces in strikes against the Russian Federation as participation in the war, with all the resulting consequences." Well, you know, if the Kremlin thought that such statements would somehow scare the British, then they were very much mistaken. On the contrary, it seems to me that this only encouraged the British even more. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Andy Burnham, during his visit to Kyiv today on the occasion of the 35th anniversary of Independence Day, he stated that he is determined to work together with our country so that Ukraine's defense forces receive stronger support than ever before. And now I will quote him. "It's not just about air defense, but also about stopping Russia from launching its missiles altogether, through sanctions that cut off Russian military supply chain, with support for destroying missiles even before they are launched at Ukrainian cities, and by assisting Ukraine in developing new technologies and deepening our industrial cooperation." And so, it has finally become known that the United Kingdom has allowed the disclosure of secret technologies, so that a British-French-designed cruise missile could be produced in Ukraine, which will serve as an incentive for Kyiv in its efforts to increase its firepower hundreds of kilometers deep into Russia. It also became known that Paris and Kyiv want to set up a production line in Ukraine for the air-launched cruise missile SCALP by the end of this year, known in the United Kingdom as Storm Shadow. Declassifying information about the British components of the missiles is a key step toward this goal. Developed by the European arms manufacturer MBDA, SCALP is a conventional long-range deep strike weapon, imported versions of which Ukraine has successfully used against fortified targets, including in November. In October of that year, these missiles were used for the first time against targets on Russian territory. And now it's been almost 2 years, and the Russians keep threatening, "Oh, so this is participation in the war. Here's how we'll respond. You'll be in for it." This missile, equipped with a turbojet engine, has a maximum range of 550 kilometers and can carry a 400 kilogram high explosive penetrating warhead. After launch, the missile uses a combination of inertial and global positioning and terrain-following navigation combined with an infrared seeker and automatic target recognition algorithms to achieve high accuracy in any weather conditions. The SCALP missile is launched from Ukrainian Su-24 fighters or Mirage 2000 fighters and tries to evade air defense systems, hugging the terrain as closely as possible during flight. And here's what's important. It has already been noted that in Ukraine the use of this missile will involve striking hidden military targets such as command bunkers, which is a more difficult task for the lighter drones that Kyiv uses to hit more open targets such as oil refineries or warehouses, Wildberries or Ozon. In addition, this same missile will try to track and destroy Russian ballistic missile launchers near the border. And it's funny that after all the loud threats from Sergei Lavrov literally just 6 days ago, today in the Kremlin they just repeated again that the United Kingdom is participating in the war and fueling the agony. They said that now we'll definitely respond. Well, maybe not before, but now it's 100%. And we've been hearing this for several years already. But now we really need to take a sober look at the situation and at ourselves, considering the statement from the United Kingdom that increasing production volumes could take several years. But the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Andy Burnham, states that London supports Kyiv in the long term, so for now they are ready to supply more of their missiles, with the expectation that Ukraine will be able to achieve full self-sufficiency in the future once it receives this technology. And at the end of this part of the broadcast I will quote Andy Burnham: "The Ukrainian people should have no doubt. The United Kingdom supports you today and will support you for as long as it takes. Ukraine's security is our security." But still, SCALP cannot solve the problem of Ukraine's shortage of defensive missiles for systems like Patriot. A vulnerability that has become evident in recent weeks with devastating consequences as Russia has launched numerous missiles and drones of its own. As a result of the attacks, dozens of Ukrainian civilians have been killed. Let me remind you, I showed you footage of empty Patriot launchers near Kyiv which haven't fired a single shot for several weeks simply because there are no Patriot missiles left. And today the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who also arrived in Kiev in honor of Ukraine's Independence Day, announced that the European Union will allocate more than 6 billion euros to Ukraine to strengthen its air defense. Here is her quote: "On Ukraine's Independence Day, we demonstrate our unwavering support. Today, we approved 6.1 billion euros for air and missile defense systems, missiles, ammunition, and radars that Ukraine urgently needs. Europe is with you today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes." Happy Independence Day! I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.